Hi there, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman in the business today, Sonny Hersh, and your host, Avi Meyers.
Marty rules! Avi Meyers here, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine. Check us out on the web, www.ntnm.org. You can watch all our shows on YouTube. Check the upcoming schedules out. Of course, join us every single week on CAN TV in Chicago, ECMC Channel 6 in Evanston, and Channel 19 or 35 and 30 or 35 north and northwest suburbs. Community policing, caps24.org, message boards, yuck, yuck, yuck. It's better than going on some porn place. It is better than a lot of stuff you could go to if you're really that bored. Okay, but you should really be talking to your police people, in-person people. Really, it's a good idea to do that. It is a pleasure and privilege, and boy, am I lying. To introduce my next guest, a long-time participant, actually the guy whose idea the show was in the first place, but I can't blame him for that all the time. I have to take some blame for that myself, and so does my entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh. We're talking about Mike Moses. Michael C. Moses, how are you doing?
Good. I won't ask you how you realize it's more impressive to talk to the police and watch porn, but I'm sure that's not independent study, but just results from a survey you read in a magazine.
Well, no, I actually talked to the police about porn because, I mean, where am I going to find the... I talked to the Vice Squad about where to find the good stuff.
Where to find the good stuff, exactly. I just wanted to make that point clear in case anyone wasn't sure.
I think we should make that crystal clear. And as a matter of fact, when it comes to crystal clear, on another show we'll be talking to Terry O'Brien about how to really make water crystal clear.
Oh, okay. I thought it was somebody's nickname that you knew. But the point is... okay.
He's on today.
I'm on tonight. Well, I haven't been here for a little while, so I've been... so what do you want to talk about?
Well, you know what? I think we should talk about the neighborhood. I think there's a lot of things going around the neighborhood. Now, first of all, to summarize, I haven't had anybody talk to me yet about the last election. First of all, even though there are some decent people that won, I was very pleased, that some of the people won. I was very pleased to see like two really good people ran for water reclamation in one. That's Catherine Therese Meany, as well as Cynthia Santos. It was nice to see them. I mean, there were enough 8 people like Michael Hyman, first Jewish judge to win countywide in over a dozen years. That was terrific. I guess one of the things I wasn't so happy to see, but I kind of knew it was coming, and you knew it was coming too, I guess, was seeing Ira Silverstein beat Bernie Stone. At this point, I think it's pretty safe to say that I don't think Bernie's going to run for anything anymore at this point.
Well, that I don't know. You have to talk to him. You have to ask him. It's 3 years till the next election. I don't know if he's running or not running. I have no idea. But Ira is a committeeman, and he'll be the leader of the Democratic Party in the 50th Ward. And
good reason to vote Republican.
Well, no, stop it. Listen,
I like Ira. I've liked Ira for over 30 years.
I know. So
I voted for him for senator.
Fine. So it won't be that hard.
But I might vote for McCain. We'll see.
Well, he's like any other committeeman now. No jobs, no contracts.
Yeah, there isn't that much power to it, not at all.
So, whatever he does, won't be that hard in November to be the committeeman because most people here will vote Democratic. And if they don't vote Democratic, a committeeman can never really change the person's mind on president or governor.
No, president, right. Well, governor's not up this time.
I mean, but that's the time, the major offices.
And hopefully by the next time the governor's race is, Blagojevich will be pleasantly ensconced statesman.
Well... who knows? But all I'm saying is that it won't be. It's not that hard for any Democratic committeeman, especially in Illinois, whether Barack Obama's the nominee or not. This area will go Democratic, and we'll see what happens in the next election. But that's over a year away, but he did win, and best of luck to him. And whatever he decides to do, he decides to do. The old style committeemen of the meetings and the jobs and whatever happens, whatever has happened in the past, that's no longer what the Democratic Party is today. And we'll just have to see what happens. But other than that, most of the other elections went, I think, pretty much what people thought. The state's attorney's race was a surprise to some people. But another good example of where the committeemen who were supporting their candidates could not deliver for their candidates. And
well, you had a funny break in those races because and I don't want to. You know, I think Anita Alvarez had something like 26% of the vote or something in a 5-person race or 6-person race. And she got enough strong Hispanic support, her being Hispanic, as well as women's support. And the fact is that she was the only non-guy fighting in that race. So I don't know I don't think 26% is an overwhelming majority, but basically it boils down to that she was able to carve enough of a niche to make it. And by the way, we have been in touch with her, and we are hoping that in the next month or two, she's taking it a little bit easy right now, election-wise, but she will be on the show at least once and hopefully twice before the election. And Tony Pareca, we know you watch too, and not forgetting you. Once we get you guys on, matter of fact, we'll invite you both on, and you can fight it out. You know, trial by combat. That might be a good way to pick the new state's attorney.
Exactly. But
and she's a marathon runner, so she'll be in shape to fight him.
Well, that's very nice. you get to certain facts here.
Well, we'll get high ratings then. There's no question. I think that'll set an all-time record for shows watched on YouTube.
Exactly.
Right now we're over 27,000. I mean, we'll go over 100,000 with that show.
Well, that's to your credit. That is a lot of shows that people have watched.
Hey, Vince McMahon is jealous. That's all I can tell you.
Exactly. And another issue, I went with Alderman Stone before he went on vacation. We went down to see...
Before he went on vacation.
Before he went on vacation. I'm still working hard. We went to see Laura Healy, who's the chief of staff to the mayor, and we talked about the community group, Westridge Community Council, and we talked about certain things we'd like to accomplish.
Now, the Westridge Community Council, we're talking about a new group here.
A new group, exactly.
Which would be nice, because we have a number of political groups.
Well,
we have the West Rogers Park Political Community Organization. I had the word political. Then you've got the National Socialist Alliance, or actually the North Shore Alliance. They're actually, by the way, I've been looking. I haven't talked to them yet. They're basically a group that's very pro-immigrant rights. But these are groups with political agendas as opposed to the old Northtown Community Council. The point I'm trying to make is the old Northtown Community Council was a community organization, an umbrella group that consisted of all the members of all the different groups and communities within the area. And it was pretty much a bipartisan thing that was looking to do good things for the neighborhood as a group, as opposed to a group that started out with a specific political point of view or a specific political agenda, be it immigration or be it Nazi Dolar or whatever.
Well, you know, there's two ways to look at that. I know exactly what you're saying. I think it's the North Side Alliance.
It's the North Shore Alliance.
I think it's the
North Side Alliance.
Yeah, I think it's the North Side Alliance.
Oh, and by the way, they would have showed up today. The lady would have, and I didn't mean to demean them at all. I mean, they're just, you know, it's pretty obvious when you go to their website, though, that they are fighting, and it's not a bad thing. They're fighting for the rights of immigrants, and there's like a zillion kinds. That we are one of the most immigrant-rich neighborhoods in the city. Right. So I can understand them wanting to be president in this place.
Right, and exactly when I was talking to Laura Healy and with the alderman, we were talking how diverse this community is, probably the most diverse community in the city of Chicago. And we were talking about getting money to start up drawings for landscaping Devon Avenue. And I made it clear to her, as I made it clear to Alderman Stone, not at the same time, of course, and she had no objection to this. I said, well, we're going to have public input into the final design, whatever, for the landscaping on Devon Avenue. I said, this is what I really want to do. I think it's important. And that's why, you know, when you say all these different groups, whether they have a political agenda or not, people are meeting to talk about how to improve the neighborhood. That's great. The more the merrier. I think as long as there's public input and as long as there's community reaction, and there's public notice, I think that's great. I think Alderman Stone feels the same way. And that's one thing we talked to Laura Healy. We also talked to Laura Healy about helping the Westridge Chamber have some type of cricket tournament in the summer at Warren Park. I've already talked to...
One thing people don't realize, I live a couple doors from Boone School, but on Sundays, it ain't kids playing softball. It's people playing cricket here.
Right, right. And I think that would... I think that's the thing which can draw the community together, maybe even have a little seminar how the game is played and how what the rules are to the game, which I don't know myself. And so we talked about a couple of matters, and we're going to get back to her. And like I said, I've already talked to the people at 2016. That's the group that's helping the city get the Olympics, and to try to help use this cricket tournament to try to get help improve the chances of the city getting the Olympics.
Now, this neighborhood would play a big part because of all the diversity.
Well,
being the most diverse neighborhood in the city. Exactly.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we're talking about. Saying, this neighborhood can really help the city get the Olympics by showing the diversity, and she knows it also. I mean, Devon Avenue is no secret where you have Pakistan, Hindus, Jews, Christians, Russians, Assyrians, Sikhs walking down the street, different restaurants.
Same block sometimes.
Same block, yeah, exactly. Next to each other, working together. Again, this is the most diverse community, excuse me, in the city of Chicago.
And a very peaceful one, too.
Very peaceful.
Check out caps24.org for your Lake 6 community policing meeting.
Exactly. So that's when we talk about some other matters, and like I said, we're going to try to have our organization try to have the first meeting, if possible, in May. We have holidays coming up. We have Passover in April. We have the Greek Orthodox Easter in April. And it's finally, this is the first month, hopefully, that maybe it'll be over 35, 40 degrees for more than 2 or 3 days in a row. And I think people really just want to go out and enjoy themselves. I don't think
hopefully, by the time this gets on the air, I'll be wrong. But I saw this morning. I was reading this morning that the warmest day of the year so far, and we're filming this in early April, has been January 7th when it hit 65 degrees.
Right. So I think people just want to relax and they want to go outside after being in their house for 3 or 4 months.
Now, one of the things I want to ask you about, because we're talking about Devon Avenue and the importance thereof, and in the meantime, Greg Brewer, with the landmark people, is trying to get 5.5 blocks to be a landmark or something where you can't touch it?
Listen, I've not heard that. I'm not sure what Greg is doing. He's very interested in Devon Avenue, and he has a perfectly right to do that. But I'm not sure with the court case. And then
let's tell people about the court case.
Well, the court case, it's in Chancery Court, and the difference between Chancery and law is that when you sue someone for an automobile accident or you sue someone for a breach of contract and you want money, you go to the law division. If you're looking for certain actions to take place, you go to the Chancery Division. So Greg's lawsuit, even though everyone calls it Greg's lawsuit, even though he's not a plaintiff,
it's to stop construction of the Devon Rockwell parking lot,
which was an issue.
Condos.
Well, whatever it is, which was an issue in the aldermanic race. He was very much against it, and he did everything he could to try to stop it. I think he went down to City Hall, which is okay. I mean, I'm not criticizing it. I'm just stating the facts. Then they went to court, and they filed the action, as I said, in Chancery. Now, because you're asking for a certain action to take place or not to take place, in this case, the building of the building, you have a right to ask for what they call like a preliminary injunction or a temporary restraining order, where you go to court and you have an immediate hearing on the issue. Because if you had to wait 3 years, like if you went to the law division, the building would be built, and then it'd be too late. So you have a right, if you wish, as a plaintiff in Chancery, to go in and ask for an immediate hearing on a temporary restraining order, which basically you are asking the judge to rule on the main issue of the case. Not a minor issue, but the main issue. They had that hearing. Greg Brewer's plaintiffs decided to have that hearing, and they lost. And usually, again, this is like 95, 98% of the time, whoever wins that preliminary injunction hearing, because this is your case. This is you have brought this case on this day after you've decided, I have enough evidence, I have enough law on my side, I know what I'm going to say, we're going to strike now and go to court now. If you lose that, you will probably lose the case, because there's nothing really more to say. Anything you were going to say, you probably would have said at the preliminary injunction level. What happened was the losers, Greg Brewer's side, appealed that decision to the appellate court.
Now, there's basically 5 people, I guess, that live within a few blocks that filed the suit.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no financial interest in the suit. I really haven't been following
No, you're just a lawyer and an observer, and you know real estate law and Chancery law.
So when they appealed the decision, instead of waiting on Mr. Siddiqui and the defendants in the case, he's the builder of the right. They decided, well, we don't want to go to the appellate court and take months on this issue on the appellate level. They agreed to stop the building of the property if the judge would give them a very short trial date instead of a preliminary injunction, believing, of course, that this will be faster than going through the whole appeal process. And since they won the first time anyway. That is what happened. So when you see the headlines, Brewer wins, stops Stone's project, or stops Siddiqui's project, or stopped everything, technically that may be true, but in a legal position, he's in a very bad position. So, of course, there's always a chance he could win.
Now, he and, more importantly, the people who actually filed that suit.
Well, since everyone considers that his suit, I just brought that point up. But
right, and by the way, in terms of the headlines, too, those are for the 3 people who get the neighborhood newspaper other than us.
Right. So that's why I'm not sure exactly where Greg's going on this. If he does win, I'm not sure what happens to that property. All that means is that I believe the suit talks about there was a restriction in some deed in the early 1900s which said you can't build as to a certain line.
Well, you have to be 20 feet away from the property line.
But every other, I believe what I've been told, every other building is, of course, in violation.
Every other building down Rockwell, it basically, which is one of the reasons that suit, the people bringing that suit, don't live on Rockwell. Those people live nearby on Campbell or one of the streets nearby. And as a matter of fact, because Greg Brewer's house itself is within 20 feet of the property lines, he couldn't be part of that suit himself.
Well, I take your word for it. I'm sure what you're saying is right.
Actually, it's based on what Alderman Stone told me, which I assume is correct information.
I'm sure it is, but all I'm saying is, okay, so no one will build anything on that property. If he doesn't win the lawsuit, then what has he done? The merchants, the Westridge Chamber of Commerce supported the building of this property, and the city gave it permits and for the parking garage. So that means for all these months, which they could have been building, he prevented the Devon merchants from able to give their customers parking in the area. So I'm not sure, but of course, it's kind of unusual in the 50th Ward to see these type of lawsuits. In other wards, especially closer downtown, Lakefront, you see these lawsuits, but again, I'm not sure exactly, and hopefully you'll have him on this show and he can explain exactly.
By the way, and I think he would have showed up today, but if he wasn't out of town. But the point is, if he loses that lawsuit, what happens?
Then they could appeal it, but I think they have to put up a big bond to continue it, and I think they'll just start building it.
But start building it now in a chancery lawsuit. Doesn't that also mean that they're responsible for the costs?
The winning side can always, in chancery, compared to, say, municipal, which is like, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, wherever each party pays its own costs, they have a right to ask for attorney's fees and expert fees. Whether the judge would grant them, that is up to the judge. It depends.
Now, by the way, wouldn't they also be responsible? Now, we're talking about a delay in construction. There are people that were hired. There are people that rented equipment on the clock that's being paid for right now while there's a work stoppage. Aren't they responsible? In theory, couldn't the judge make them responsible? Well, here's the
thing. Since I don't know, and I don't know if people are actually getting paid by the hour now since this lawsuit started.
Well, but let's say people are, because my understanding is that there are, not by the hour, but there is equipment that is rented. There were people that were hired that are being.
Listen, if
money's being spent.
If money's being spent, I'm sure that the winning side will ask for the loser to pay the money, whatever the damages are, whatever the costs are.
And is this something the court might grant?
It's possible. But again, I think usually when you have this type of situation, you're just talking about winning the case, and I'm sure that here's the point. I'm sure Greg's lawyers know that if they lose, they could be responsible. That the plaintiffs, it's not the lawyers are not going to pay any money. It's the plaintiffs that may pay. Whether that happens or not, whether they win, whether they lose, whether the judge gives them the damages, that's to be seen. But I think the key to this is that his losing the temporary restraining order, where 98% of the cases where the decision is based upon whoever wins that temporary restraining order, but then he continued to go forward for whatever reason. Why he continued, why his lawyers told him to do that.
Well, you know what?
You'll have to ask him.
Let's change the subject, because we're running out of time. So what else do you want to talk about?
I want to say, well, this again, I wanted to say that it's kind of funny, and I don't know what happened in this. Again, it goes back to Greg, which is funny. We're talking about, and I didn't mean to come here today, just talk about Greg Brewer, but we had another situation where Greg wrote a letter to the people responsible, are associated with the SSAs. He wrote a letter. He didn't tell the SSA that he was going to write the letter. I have no idea what's in the letter. It's just kind of surprising.
And you're a member of the SSA.
I'm a member of the SSA. I did, and it's
which is the Devon Avenue Special Service District we talked about on the show in the past.
Right, and and which is really doing a good job. And it's just kind of surprising. I have no idea what's in the letter. It's just kind of surprising he didn't send it, considering that Irv Lowndes, who was his campaign manager, who was his friend, who did the commercials
for Brewer during the election.
For Brewer, yeah. I mean, I think everyone knows that. So why wouldn't he send, if he had any questions about the SSA, why wouldn't he send us a letter, or at least copy a letter to us? And I've tried to call them and ask them that, and I'm going to try to go to the SSA and write them a letter. It may be a positive letter about us. It may be a negative letter about us.
But you don't know, and you know what? At this point, we're running out of time. And by the way, I want to save some time because the guest right after you is going to be Mary Beth Brewer, but she's going to talk about the Historical Society.
Well, Mary Beth does a lot of work.
Comment. We're out of time.
She's a good person.
I did want to say she's a very nice person.
Exactly.
I'll say that too. And I also want to say that next time I'd like to talk about how disappointed I am in the Lorraine Swanson and the New Neighborhood newspaper. Sonny, thanks. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.